Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, this is part two. I forgot to mention a couple of other points in my response to Boyce Watkins. So, one thing that he talked about is how some immigrants they come to this country and they're disrespectful of African Americans. And he actually didn't qualify it. He said immigrants come to this country and they disrespect African Americans. They treat African Americans in a horrible kind of way, in a discriminatory way, and they treat African Americans worse than white people do. First of all, I think that, of course, you have people that do that, that disrespect black people, but to make a sweeping generalization and just characterize all immigrants that kind of way, or to suggest that most of them are that way, I think that that is just another example of the fallacy of generalizations. It's another example of stereotyping people. And, I just find it as hypocritical for people to criticize others for stereotyping black people and being prejudiced towards black people, and then for us to go ahead and have the same kind of attitude as the people we criticize. So that's the first point that I wanted to make. And then the second point that I neglected to mention is this the mere fact that you identify and you respect other groups of people, other ethnicities, that doesn't mean you lose sight of who you are. I mean, the fact that you recognize the plight of, for instance, Muslims or immigrants or women or even these LGBT people, that doesn't mean that you lose sight of who you are as a black person. That doesn't necessarily follow. And I think that that point was weak. I think that that's a weak justification for going against or rejecting the idea of intersectionality. One can recognize the plight of other groups of people while at the same time have pride in yourself, have knowledge of self, have respect for yourself, and appreciation for your own cultural identity, and still be actively engaged in the issues that affect black people. It's not an either or situation. And I think that that's a false presentation that Boyce Watkins presented, basically saying, well, it's either one or the other. Like somehow you lose sight of who you are if you recognize these other groups and you assist these other groups. And another point that I want to make is this, this idea, this false narrative that's being put out here that, that these other groups aren't involved in the plight of black people. I mean, again, you have the example of white abolitionists, you have the example of white civil rights workers who gave their lives. You have the people today that participate in, for instance, the Black Lives Matter demonstrations. If you look at many of the photographs from these protests around the issue of police brutality, you will see many white people and many other ethnicities participating in those marches. Here in Baltimore, when I observed the demonstrations around Freddie Gray, I saw a lot of white people. When I saw people rallying outside of City Hall, I saw a lot of white people and other groups, other ethnicities, including Arabs and Hispanics and other groups. I mean, I just think that we have put out this false idea out here that no other group of people are concerned about our issues, and that's simply not true. I think that we need to build bridges with these groups, and we should get commitments from them before we engage. That's one thing that I do agree. I think that we need to have mutual commitments, again, between these different groups. Let me see if I missed anything else. Um, yeah, and he mentioned about being isolated and how we need to develop our own agenda. I do agree that we should develop our own agenda. And I mean, plenty of black organizations have their own agenda. So I think this idea that somehow black people don't have any kind of agenda is bullshit, because there are groups that have agendas and they work with others and they work in such a way that their mutual agendas are being promoted. So I really think that that's a false narrative. And again, this is coming from somebody who's not an organizer. Boyce Watkins is not an organizer. If I'm wrong, prove it. I mean, all I know the brother does is talk about entrepreneurship, and that's good. We need black people to have businesses and all that kind of stuff. But I just think that it's, and I'll just mention this real quick. I mean, I just think that it's odd that people condemn the system of white supremacy, but yet they have no problem participating in it. They have no problem promoting it by promoting this capitalist narrative that you can be a part of a business, and we can prosper through the system, through the stock market, through entrepreneurship. But that's a whole nother argument. I could go into that for hours and stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. And then this idea that somehow immigrants are replacing black people. I really think that there is no conflict between immigrants coming to this country. They are not displacing African Americans from jobs. People present this false narrative. I mean, a lot of times these unskilled immigrants that come to this country are taking on jobs that many African Americans are not interested in. So I really wish that people would stop putting out this false idea that somehow these immigrants are taking jobs from black people. When I hear this anti-immigrant sentiment coming from people like Boyce Watkins, all I could think about is this. I mean, this man, for all intents and purposes, is supporting, when you boil it down, that whole anti-immigrant attitude that fueled the Trump campaign. I mean, the brother might as well put on one of those "Make America Great" hats again, just like his partner Yvette Carnell. I mean, I saw a video where she was wilding out and she actually put on one of those Donald Trump hats. Yeah, I mean, this brother might as well put on one too, because he has the same kind of bigoted, anti-immigrant attitude as many of those Trump supporters. And I think that that's a disgrace. I mean, I don't think that we should have the same mentality of the white supremacists. Again, as I've said in other videos, the same people that hate the immigrants are the same people that hate our black asses. So let's not get it twisted. Let's not get it messed up.